With Ultra Retrospective, I try not to dwell on negativity. At the end of the day, this little show of mine is about revisiting the Ultraman shows I have something to say about, and I gravitate towards the ones I have the most positive feelings for. For example, I didn't go into my rewatch of Ultraman Ace wanting to have mixed feelings about it. I wanted to recognize and illustrate things about it that I like, even though in the end I ended up having a mixed opinion about it. Sure, I go over things in particular shows I don't like, but I enjoy talking about good media more than bad media, you feel me? That said, not everything in the Ultra franchise is good or even enjoyable. That's just something I have to confront at some point. On an unrelated note, this video is about Ultraman the Ultimate Hero, or Ultraman Powered. It's the first and only live-action American Ultraman production.
Come on, let's make this quick.
Released in 1995, The Ultimate Hero was another attempt from Tsuburaya Productions to push the Ultraman series internationally, following a dark age that started in the 80s. They had already tried with Ultraman Towards the Future, an Australian production that I'm actually pretty okay with. It was a solid entry in the Ultra series. So this American production was another attempt to branch out internationally. The results speak for themselves. In a world where monster attacks are a regular occurrence, an attack team is established in the good old US of A to deal with them. The Worldwide Investigation Response Team, WINNER. The premise is typical stuff. A team member by the name of Kenichi Kai is sent to investigate a crashed UFO, which it turns out is Ultraman. Promising to not take over his mind, a nice gesture, thanks for making that clear, Ultraman and Kai team up to lightly shove various monsters for the rest of the show, including the Baltan aliens, who may or may not be orchestrating all of this. It's simple, very reminiscent of the original Ultraman by design, especially with the look of Powered and all the monsters being heavy redesigns of the ones from the original show, even down to the opening being set against a colored background with the monsters sliding into frame, though it's not as visually interesting.
Duck! That was no duck.
It's clear that they were going for something lighthearted and reminiscent of old B-movies. I just got done doing a video series covering a bunch of B-movies, so the mental comparison is hard not to make. That said, I feel like there was a missed opportunity to use original monsters unique to this American setting.
The average person wants to see Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, Abominable Snowman.
Hey, thanks Jeffrey Combs, that's exactly what I was thinking. Nessie is exclusive to Scotland though, so what about American cryptids like Mothman? Why not have one based on our wildlife too? Like a Googer, or better yet, to highlight the whole B-movie thing, have them fight monsters based on them. What about one based on our healthcare system? Even the Australian show had episodes with marsupials and giant locusts, and one monster was literally named Bogan. But here we've just got the Japanese kaiju again. Even so, these are cool redesigns of the first show's kaiju. One of the most clever things in the show is the reveal of a second Red King, and he's actually red. I like it. They hint at Western science fiction every now and again, especially with the underground people who control Telesdon being re-envisioned as mole people.
Light! Give us your light! Light! Give us your light!
Jamila has also been redesigned to resemble a giant mutated astronaut, but the episode itself still pales in comparison to the original.
Ice cream!
Oh, there was hair in it! There was hair in it!
There was hair in it! Oh, God, Jesus!
Powered himself is also a fine enough design. They essentially took the original Ultraman and made him a little more American, I guess. He's got a more defined jawline, and the toned muscles are reminiscent of the look of live-action American superheroes at the time. I get the sense that the actors here were doing their best given the material, but they weren't given the right direction, or even good material.
Sure doesn't look like a woman.
The primary cast of Winner just don't have good chemistry.
Must be 1,000 years old.
Try 3 or 4,000.
Whoa, almost as old as you, Beck.
Some minor characters are usually fine, they've got functional acting, but I wouldn't say anyone in the primary cast is exceptional. They're so nonplussed, and their vacant stares as Ultraman comes down just says everything about the energy on set. I'm sorry, but the comedy relief guy just fails the delivery every time.
I might as well be throwing marshmallows.
Thanks, man. Shut up.
Don't talk to me.
The show is just so low energy that, like, whenever,
it's lethargic.
The biggest name here is in episode 3. Jeffrey Combs of all actors. I mainly know him as Herbert West from the Reanimator films.
He's a wife beater, Dan! Use the gun!
Seeing him interact with the crappiest incarnation of Pigmon is so surreal. He is great in this though, so no amount of poor direction can make him not fun.
I'm gonna put you on TV. You are going to be a huge international star. Huh?
Many things have been said about this show's fight scenes, and unfortunately, I don't have much new to add. These poorly choreographed and toothless monster battles are what every episode builds up to, and they're all terrible. It's simultaneously frustrating and hysterical for the wrong reasons. There's just something so profoundly awkward about them that makes me giggle. I once again consulted Ultrablog DX for this show. Again, really great source, I'll link it in the description. The fight scenes are like this due to a variety of factors, mainly two. The monster suits were good. In fact, they were too good. They were fragile and couldn't withstand the roughhousing you would expect from an average Ultraman duel. Not only that, but this show was expected to air on American television. So it was further nerfed and Ultraman could no longer throw any punches. These two factors result in what amounts to playful shoving and the occasional throw. It's saying something that the best fight in the show is against Dada, which is mostly an exchange of beams and cars. The ironic thing about all of this is that the show never even aired in America. They compromised the choreography for a demographic that never even got it. Whenever Ultraman does a huge flip, it's like, damn, finally some action. But then he goes back to the playful shoving. This is the most violent stunt in the show, and it's not even a fight scene. Kai had no reason to do this, too. There are glimpses of better camera work that gives these scenes weight, but they're few and far between. I will say, I do like that because the show takes place in America, it allows for fights in suburbs. I think more American kaiju media needs to take place in what basically amounts to 90% of the residents in this country. I'm tired of seeing major cities caught in the crossfire. Show me more fights in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. When the show is funny, it's funny. But it would be even better if almost every episode wasn't so fucking boring. The editing in this feels like it's stretching for time, just holding on shots for a little too long. All to fill in a time slot that doesn't even exist, considering it never even aired in America. I really want to enjoy the cheese of all this, but funny moments are few and far between the seas of gray sludge that are this show's storylines. There's one episode where they fight Zambolar, and it doesn't even have the courtesy to end in a shitty fight scene. Ultraman goes all namaste on him and he walks away never to appear again. There are some episodes I would call decent, however. The Dada one has a good cold open, and the reinterpretation of the alien as a sort of computer virus is a fun update on the source material. If there is one episode of the show I would recommend, it's this one. The Gomora episode is also a good meme. The entire time, Gomora is just having a bad day, and all the shitty miniature shots and sequences of him stumbling through American suburbia are just hysterical. I've noticed that special attention was given to the sound design, and I think it's too prominent. Every little rustle of clothing, every gust of wind, every jangling of keys, everything is placed at the forefront of the audio soundscape, and considering how awkward everything else in the show is, this just adds to it. Sometimes the choice in sound effects is just not fitting. They do give the monsters their original roars. That's something even the Japanese shows failed to do for a time.
What's so funny?
Though sometimes they substitute them with their own roars if they need a specific emotion, and it's pretty funny. I do like the show's opening. It's rudimentary, but it reminds me of a screensaver. Hell, the show's music in general is memorable, if only because of how often they play certain tracks. It's one of the most competent elements of Powered, I suppose. There were many things that went wrong with the production of Powered, from the delicate suits with exposed wiring, the harsh conditions of filming under the hot Californian sun, to the showrunners deliberately spending as little as possible, because that's the joke, and spending the rest of the Tsuburaya money on vacations to Hawaii, allegedly. I don't want to insinuate that everyone involved in the production didn't care, but I wouldn't doubt that the most important higher-ups wanted to spend as little as possible. But my favorite story from this production has to be the incident where they forgot to bring a Red King suit to filming, so they stuffed it into the back of a car which drove down a busy highway. Actual comedy. Probably the weirdest thing about Powered is the number of notable people involved who were either inexperienced at the time or had their work mishandled by another party. Various episode screenplays were written by Kazunori Ito of Ghost in the Shell, Dot Hack, and Gamera Trilogy fame. Shinji Higuchi was involved with concept art and uncredited miniature work, and he'd go on to do Shin Ultraman. There are some weird special appearances here too. There's the aforementioned Jeffrey Combs, there's the kid from Lost in Space, Bill Mummy, who appears in the cold open of episode 5. It's so odd seeing them in Ultraman. I guess it kinda helps it feel more like a B-movie, but again, it's not as fun as they hoped. Not to mention, Kane Kosogi played Kenichi Kai here. He's been in a Super Sentai series, he went on to be in Godzilla Final Wars, and then he went on to be in a Kamen Rider movie. He's basically been in every tentpole tokusatsu series. Ultraman Powered kinda stinks, but that's not just because of a bias against the fact that it's not Japanese, no. I think what makes something like Towards the Future work, for me at least, is that they at least tried there. The cheese felt earned. They believed in the show they were making, no matter how corny it was in execution. It wasn't perfect, but it was at least sincere. The actors weren't winking at the camera when they delivered lines like,
That's not a choice. That's bullshit.
Powered, by comparison, is a little tongue-in-cheek. But for me, that only results in an occasional chuckle. It's not as admirable of an attempt. The pathetic monster fights are undeniably hilarious, but it's asking a lot for me to endure the 20 minutes that precede them. I want to say there is an improvement over the course of the show in terms of presentation, but that just might be Stockholm Syndrome settling in. I still wouldn't say it's my least favorite entry. There's one that I vaguely remember being a bit more miserable. I will say, however, that on all levels of execution, Ultraman Powered is the most inept. It was made by people with no experience in the brand of special effects the franchise is known for. I just can't get into the cheese of it because it lacks the energy required to make it work. It's poorly shot and blocked, the pacing just isn't there, the monster designs are good but their construction make fight scenes a joke, the stupid helmets Winner wears obstruct their vision. This is Ultraman on melatonin. There really hasn't been an American Ultra series since Powered. This was our one shot for a while, and we kinda blew it. There is an animated film coming to Netflix sometime next year, though, and with Tsuburaya doing another international push, we might just see another attempt. Here's hoping the film is good. Powered himself would appear a couple times as cameos, and even a proper appearance in one of the Ultra Galaxy Fight specials. Rather stunningly, the Powered incarnation of Dada would go on to appear in one of the good episodes of Ultraman Trigger. They even reference the shitty car throw move by going over the top with the effects on it. It's great. It's rare for a new Ultra show to make a new suit for such a random kaiju, so that's what makes this such a neat deep cut. While Powered is a slog for a number of reasons, it is a good show to put on with friends. That was the only thing that got me through this rewatch.
Transfer. Okay.
Oh my god.
That's it?
No, that's how all the fights end in the show.
Shaw.
They should have titled it Ultraman the Unfortunate Hero. Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of the video. At the time this is going public, it will have been a while since I've put out an Ultra retrospective, so I hope the wait wasn't too aggravating. I'm trying to space out my uploads, and I'm considering going to G-Fest this year, despite everything. And if these videos do well, then I'll definitely go, because then I'll actually have the funds for it. So yeah, like and subscribe. I'm not asking you to do that, but you can if you want. I would very much appreciate it, actually. But anyways, here is a shout out to my top patrons for helping make videos like this one possible. Mulan Nguyen, Ultraman Taro vs. Leo, Heya Mooney, Krazak53, Koman, Queer Kaiju, Radiant GV, Chronicler Waba, Alcoholic Alligators, Ryan Santa Cruz, Avok Robot, The Antagonist, Richard Ciavardon, Ziggy Zigra, It's God Z, Big Odilo, Inactual Dimetrodon, CMG, Red Comet Harry, and Marpzilla. Thank you all very much.